appreciate you all for logging in at this time. Right now, we're going to have Marty Gonzalez. He's with Tessinger, and he works as an EH&S delivery tech, and he'll speak a little bit more about the role, how he came into the role, and what that consists of, what his day-to-day operations are, and any questions or feedback you may have, please enter them into the group chat and he will address those at that time. Thank you so much, Marty. You may begin.
All right. I started this business back in '85, so that'll tell you that I've been in it for quite a while. I went into a craft and I got into safety back in 90. 1990 was the year that I got into safety, and I actually started it because I was requested to work as a safety representative from our department. And I'll tell you, once I got into it, I started learning about different crafts and other functions of the crafts. Being in safety gave me an opportunity to really look at it from a different perspective, not just getting the work done, but also getting work done safely and actually planning work with safety in mind. So I'll tell you, you'll go into this field, if you choose to go into this field, you'll actually have to wear a lot of different hats at a lot of different times. One, the primary hat you'll always wear is safety first. And it sounds like a cliche, it sounds like something people just say, but it's the truth, because if you're not safe for yourself and taking care of yourself, you can't do it for anyone else. Really, once you've learned to plan your work safely, you can help others plan their work as safe. I don't know who all is in this conversation, but I think they can echo some of the things that I'm saying, because if you've been in it for one day, or if you've been in it for 20 years, you'll find that there's always one person at the beginning, and at the end, there's one person, that's yourself. So you go to it planning for yourself, and then if there's 10 people, you just multiply that safety plan and you utilize it for 10 people. It won't work for everyone, but everyone can take what you give them and add to it or take from it. You never take someone else's plan and execute it just the way they planned it, because you'll have your own parts that you may want to change. But in the end, what you get out of it is exactly what you put into it. If you put effort into planning, you get a good product. You get a good day's work. If you plan at the last minute and you play it by what some people say, you shoot from the hip, that's exactly what you're going to get. You're going to get shooting from the hip. You're going to miss most of the time. But the other thing is that you gain a lot of friends. I would say you gain a lot of acquaintances first, and then from those acquaintances, you'll pick your friends. But at the same time, you're also going to end up picking those people that you want to surround yourself with. Because as a safety tech, it's usually one safety tech and 10 to 15 to 20 people watching you. And as you go with more experience, you end up multiplying those people. Those people end up becoming 100 in a department, and you're working with them, not against them. And you're not working for them, but you're working with them, because any and everything you do will either help them or hurt them. And in reality, when you're looking at it from a safety tech's perspective, you're trying to help people get home safe at the end of the day. Sometimes it will be by slowing work down. Sometimes it'll actually be by speeding work up. Some people don't believe a safety person can do that, but in reality, they can, simply by making sure that you're out in the field, you're where the people are at. If you're in an office setting and your job is to be in the office area, watching out for people working in the office, that's where you need to be, so that they don't have to come looking for you. You have to make it a practice to go to them, go to the people in the field. If you're from the field, if you're working in the field as a field tech, you need to be in the field where they're at. When it's 95 degrees outside, it's not a good look when somebody from safety comes walking up there and they don't have no sweat on them, and they're not complaining about the heat because they've been in air conditioning all day. and then they correct someone. Well, that someone that you correct is not going to take it well, mainly because they're out in the field, out in the 95-degree weather, and you're not out there with them, so you don't know what they're going through. I would say also that if you have the opportunity to ever work in the craft or in the crafts with the guys in the field or the gals, whichever it may be, take that opportunity and put the gloves on, put the safety equipment on, put some tools in your hand, and work with the guys or gals so that they know that you've been there. If you come straight out of school, don't come out opening up the book and saying, well, this is what the book says, because you have to take the field and the book and put them together to make it work well for the guys in the field. Now, out in the field, you gain a lot of experience. And by gaining that experience, obviously you start out at a pay rate that everybody, when they start out, I think everybody feels like they could make more money, but you have to earn that. And how you earn that is by showing that you can be a plus to the job, not a negative. And what does that mean? That means that you can help the work get done and not just be out there to slow it down and just show up when there's problems. You need to be out there recognizing the people when they're doing well. You need to be out there recognizing and talking to the people when they're not doing so well. I can tell you from myself, I've enjoyed for myself, I can tell you that I've enjoyed working in the field. And when I say working in the field, that means working where the construction site is at, where and it may not be a construction site, it may be a warehouse, but that's where all the work, hands-on work gets done. The hands-on work, while you're out there and you get it done, you're the one that's actually putting the boxes in the places, putting the rebar in where it goes, pouring concrete, putting pipe in the rack. Those people go, and that's what I mean doing the field work. If you have an opportunity to go out there and visit those people and work with those people, it's always a plus, because you can actually tell them that you put your hands on the work, you've done the work. But at the same time, if the work is in a warehouse, go to the warehouse. If the work is in an office setting, I'm going to tell you, an open file drawer is just as hazardous as a piece of pipe at 2 foot off the ground in the field, because an open file drawer can cause somebody to trip. We don't think of those things as real hazards because they're in an office setting, but people have tripped on file cabinets, file drawers, or just boxes that are stored in offices and hit their head on a desk and hurt themselves. No different than a person tripping out in the field on a piece of pipe, hitting their head on a piece of concrete. Either way, it's going to be an injury. And either way, it's going to affect someone either immediately or directly or indirectly. Normally, the people that I say indirectly are the people at the house, the kids, the loved ones, the family members that are waiting for their mother or father to get home from work. I'm not really sure if there's anything else I can add other than it is a good living. It's a steady living. Some people feel like, safety is only for certain people. It can be for anyone up until the point to where you have to make a choice. Is that what you want to do for the rest of your time where you're an employee working for someone or you're running your own business? You have to decide, because you're going to be on the side of people looking at you as you're there to get people that are doing the incorrect things or doing things wrong. And in reality, you're there to make sure people are getting home, getting done safely. Also, do you think a safety person would be blamed for getting someone terminated or someone fired? There's a lot of different words they use for that, but in reality, a lot of people will blame you for firing somebody. And in reality, it's not, because what I always tell people is that when they say, yeah, you fired so-and-so, in reality, you didn't. You don't fire someone. Someone does it to themselves when they do wrong. Basically, what you're doing is when you find somebody doing something wrong and you correct them, And it just so happens that that's their third strike, and it causes them to lose their job. What you have done is taken that person out of his area of harm where he was going to hurt himself for doing things wrong. And you're giving them an opportunity to step back, think about what they were doing. And yeah, they'll be unemployed for a time period. But that unemployment is better to be unemployed for a time period than to be hurt to the point to where you can't work, or worse than that, have a fatal accident. But again, there's times that you will be blamed for having someone terminated, but you can't look at it that way. You have to look at it as, I did what was right. That person has another chance at doing right, and they're not going to get hurt or lose their life on your watch while you're out watching them. Because when it comes down to it, again, like I said, if they're not going to take care of themselves and they're not going to watch out for themselves, they're going to take shortcuts. There's no way they're going to be looking out for someone else. If you ever hear the old saying, let me do it, I'd rather do it. In case something goes wrong, it'll be me that gets hurt. Those are the people you have to watch out for. And I'm telling you that from experience. I at one time was a supervisor of people where, I said, well, let me do it, because there's certain risk in everything we do. But when you evaluate the risk and you take out all the risks that you can, and then the risks that are left, you wear protective equipment for that risk. You've done everything you can. Some jobs will have a risk that you can't work. You can't do the job. You have to back up in what some people call punting. You have to punt it. You have to back up and set another plan, put another plan in place, get a different person or a different piece of equipment. But again, yes, you'll be blamed for firing people, but all you can do is explain yourself. Some things you can't talk a lot about, but you will have to explain yourself and make it right. Make it to where they can understand what they did wrong so that they won't do it again. I'm sorry, what was that third one?
It says, aside from the book or classroom knowledge, what soft skills do you feel you need within your role?
Yeah, and aside from the book, because I'm gonna tell you, I don't want to knock people that go to school for safety and never experience a field, but I will tell you that when you go and you get the book part of it, what you need to be able to do is remember that there's people out there that are doing the job now, and you have to watch people. If you can go out there and put your hands on the work and work with people, because I'm gonna tell you, if you can work with people and you can explain yourself to people, that person that you become, you'll go far. Because learning to use certain tools, basic tools, you'll learn the right way, and then you can explain it to others. The soft skills that you learn out in the field is basically by watching people do their job. Watch the guys that have been in it 15, 20 years. If you see something if you have to ask if it's a risk, there's more than likely a risk to it, because most people have common sense and they'll use it. But in the case that you don't ask the questions, you'll never know what can be done to do it right or do it better. But some of the skills you need to pick up on is basic field work, basic ladder use, basic PPE, gloves, types of gloves, types of safety glasses, face shields. A lot of times people make light of safety glasses because you very seldom hear people getting hurt with getting hit in the eye. But the day that somebody gets hit in the eye, it's usually unforgiving. It's usually an eye injury that's severe enough to where people lose sight or lose an eye. So don't make light of that. You have to use that. That can be one of your things that you learn firsthand, is that you go out there and explain why safety glasses are so important, why face shields are so important. But the best thing you can do is go out and ask questions of the people that have been doing this job for a time period. Again, it doesn't matter if it's in the office setting or in the field setting. You have to become someone that is easy to communicate with. In the beginning, you're going to have to talk and ask questions and be prepared to answer questions. And don't hesitate to tell someone you don't know. The worst thing you can do is feel like you have to answer every question that is asked to you right away and give somebody the wrong answer. If you tell them, hey, I'll get back to you and I'll ask you again, I'll come back to you with the right answer, they'll value that more than you just, like I said earlier, shoot from the hip and give them an answer.
Marty, you speak on PPE. What does that acronym stand for? Is it provided by the company? And what happens if you all find somebody either out in the field or within their workplace without the proper PPE?
Yeah, thank you, Raquel. You're right. PPE is protective equipment, personal protective equipment. And you'll hear it in different ways, and you'll see different signs, some glasses, some goggles. PPE is usually provided by the company. There's very few companies out there anymore that will tell you you have to provide your own PPE. Now, most companies, I will tell you this, most companies will provide you the basic safety glasses, the basic gloves, and that's a Z87 or Z87 plus glasses. That is an ANSI standard. So if they give you a pair of glasses and they say, these are clear glasses, you can use them when it's light or dark, they're doing that because they're meeting the requirement. Now, some people want to go out and buy some different safety glasses that they like. You have to make sure you're buying the right ones. You can't just buy a pair of safety glasses that says they're shatter resistant or shatter proof. When you buy them, they have to have that stamp, Z87. That's a PPE. That's personal protective equipment. Gloves, the same way. Companies will provide you gloves. Some companies will tell you you're going to provide your own PPE, and we're allotting you a certain amount of money to buy that PPE. You go out to the field and you find somebody not wearing safety glasses, and it's a required PPE. It's a required piece of personal protective equipment. You talk to them, you coach them. Out in the construction field or out in the office area, it's just like being on a sports team or a team. Those of you that may be familiar with sports, those of you that may have played football, basketball, baseball, volleyball, any sport that's a team sport, you know that there's always a coach. And that's what you become out in the field. You go out and you coach kids, you coach people. If you've ever coached a team, you know that you have to explain yourself a lot. You have to explain consequences to people. That's the same setting that you go out to a construction job site, and people joke about, well, the only difference is these kids are older, and it may be, but the fact is that you as a coach should have some experience or some knowledge of what you're teaching kids, what you're teaching the employees. And it's up to you to be able to and explain yourself, what the consequences are of not wearing PPE. There's two types of consequences. One is the physical injury. You get hurt by it, you can lose an eye, you can get a laceration. There's all different kind of PPE. Fall protection, you can lose a life if you're not wearing fall protection, and that being a harness, and you're not tied off when you're above 6 foot or 4 foot, depending on what the company's requirements are. But the consequence is that you could get hurt or loss of life. The other consequence is that you could lose employment. You could lose the job that you have, and you'll have to go look for another one. And believe me when I tell you, if you have bad work ethics, whether it's you're lazy or whether you're unsafe, that follows you. Word of mouth does follow you. So it's very important that when you start out, you go out and you find the people that you want to copy, you want to be like. You see those guys that work really hard. You got to be careful, because those guys may be working very hard and get a lot of work done, and then they turn and look at you and they're not wearing safety glasses. So those are the guys that they may get a lot of work done, but it's just a matter of time before they get hurt. The consequence with that would be that they would get hurt, have an eye injury, or lose work because they get disciplined for not wearing the PPE, which is the personal protective equipment. And again, when you go out to the field and you see somebody doing wrong, myself, I'm not going to speak for everyone, but myself, my first action is to explain and to coach whomever I find doing wrong. I coach them. Now, listen, you may tell somebody that they're doing wrong, and they may totally disagree. But if you're following the requirements and the company has stricter requirements, you have to explain to them the company requires a higher standard here. Most companies go above the basic standard. So you'll have to know your company's standards so that when someone comes from another company, they go, oh, no, we don't do it like that. We did it like that. We did it like this the last time I worked for this company. Well, every company has their own standards. So you have to make sure that you're familiar with the standards being the rules that you have to follow.
Marty, a quick question. How
Yes.
has COVID-19 impacted you all, your work there, whether it's a delivery tech or just being mindful of distancing oneself? And is it changed the PPE that's utilized on the employees?
You know, I think if people do what we normally do in our construction industry right now, is the biggest thing that is changing in the way we approach our work is obviously facial covers. People now in these days, people wear a lot of facial covers because of the sun. One, good hygiene, and what that has done in the construction industry and our industry is the COVID has driven people to doing more basic hand washing, having more hand washing facilities, using more hand sanitizer. It has, I will say that it's slowed the work down just because it's different. People are having to use either the distance of 6 foot, but in our industry you can't because a lot of this work that we do requires teamwork, requires 2 or 3 people doing a job in close quarters. So that's when you have to make sure that everybody's wearing facial protection, respirators. In our industry already that we're wearing safety glasses. It's been said that COVID can be spread through the eyes, touching your eyes. So we've gone out and told our people more often now, put in our safety topics that we send out. It has become part of our daily conversation. You know, are you feeling sick? Do you have any symptoms? That is something that's been very different now because normally in our industry, a lot of those questions go unasked. One reason is because people don't think of other people being sick. The other thing is that we've asked a lot of times now, where are you feeling bad? If you're feeling bad, if you have any of the symptoms, you can't work. And in this field, a lot of people work all the hours they can simply because when it rains, there's a lot of times people aren't working, so they try to take advantage of when they can work. But yeah, it's affected our work a lot, mainly by making sure that people have places to wash their hands, reminding people to, you know, I can speak for South Texas, and I can speak for this area. A lot of people shake hands, fist bump, things of that nature. It's loud, so in the areas that we work, so people walk up to one another and they get way closer than 6 foot. I mean, there's times when you're inches away trying to explain yourself because it's so loud in some of these areas. Well, now with a mask on, you have to be even more particular about the words you use because you have to be clear and you have to speak clear and you have to be specific about what you're trying to communicate. So yeah, it's affected us a lot. And the other thing is it affected us is people have become hesitant to get close to one another. And I'm not saying it's a bad thing because that's one of the things that spreads it faster than anything. But at the same time, it is a bad thing because it keeps people from being able to communicate as well as they have prior to COVID. But it has affected us and it has slowed us down. But at the same time, it's driven people to doing a better job with just basic hygiene and using basic hand sanitizer. Things of that nature. It has slowed us down, but we're getting past it.
Thank you so much, Marty. Anyone else, do y'all have any questions or any feedback you'd like to offer Marty before we wrap up? Okay. I don't see any questions in our panel. We appreciate your time, Marty, and I apologize for any confusion or any inconvenience with the
No
program
problem. No
equipment.
problem. I apologize for being late.
Thank you so much for taking time out of your afternoon, and the callers online. Thank you again for your patience. We appreciate you all. You all stay safe, stay healthy, and we will reconvene once at a different time.